Hey folks, Chris coming at you again with another chainsaw video. In this video I'm going to be attempting to replace the fuel line in this old Craftsman 2.1 with a 14-inch bar. I know these are actually made by Poulan, however you pronounce it. I'm not sure exactly what model this is. I've looked them up. It looks similar to a Model 25. Maybe some of you could help me out in the comments with that. I've never owned one of these saws. I just got this one yesterday, as a matter of fact. It appears to be in really good shape. Hasn't seen much use. The guy I got it from told me it runs, but after putting fresh fuel mix in there and giving it a few pulls, it's not picking up gas into the fuel line, but a little squirt of gas directly into the carburetor and it fires, but won't stay running. It's not pulling gas through the line. So I watched a couple of videos of what I could find on YouTube last night about this, and I found similar saws that actually have the fuel line running up through the handle here, but I'm not sure if that's the case here. So you're going to learn along with me. I really have no idea what I'm doing here. So right off the bat, let's get started. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is I guess take off the bar and chain, and this is kind of weird here. There's a 1/4-inch Allen head bolt holding the bar on. That's a little different. Normally you'd have a stud with a nut on it, but this is a Allen head machine bolt. See what we got in here. It's a little dirty there. Outboard clutch. Let's take this little plate off. Okay, there's the chain. Kind of interesting setup there. I'm guessing this is some kind of safety chain, but I've never really seen one like it before. Alright, now to get to the carburetor, there is one single flathead screw right there. Take that out, and your top cover with the choke lever will come off. And now you can see down in here, there's the carburetor and your little choke flap. I don't see any piece of foam or anything in here for an air filter. I'm assuming it's supposed to have one. I'll have to check into that. Maybe some of you could tell me in the comments. Looks pretty clean in here. The carburetor looks brand new. This thing hasn't been used much, so I'm hoping there's not much wrong with it. Okay, I can see on this one that the fuel line attaches right here, and I don't know if you can see on camera, it comes around and goes straight down in there. It does not look like it goes through the handle like on the other model I was talking about. So let's take this starter cover off and see if we can see the fuel line coming through here. These are also it looks like 3 flathead screws that hold this on. off. Fairly clean in there. That's always a good sign. Okay, now I can see the fuel line right here, and that thing is hard as a rock. No wonder it's not getting gas. It's probably a split in there somewhere. And let's see where it goes into the tank here. This might be a little interesting. Okay, please excuse my shaky hands here. Here's the fuel line going into the tank here, and I don't know if you can see, it looks like it makes a sharp bend going around in there and then comes up through there. Alright, here's what we've got so far. I went ahead and yanked the fuel line out. The end that was in the tank seems to be still pretty soft and flexible, but the end that went up to the carburetor is really hard and cracking, and it was loose on the carburetor. So that's definitely a problem. I don't know if it's the problem, but it's a problem. And it had a couple of these little connector thingies, one before it went into the tank and one that was in the tank. Apparently somebody's messed with the fuel lines on this one before, because there was an extra piece of line that was just sitting in the tank. It wasn't hooked to anything, and the filter was not attached to anything. It was just rattling around in there. I know the best procedure is to replace these filters, but I don't have one right now, and I think this one's fairly clean. I'm going to blow it out, and we'll just hope for the best there. I do have new fuel line, so these are getting chunked out the door. I'm still looking. I think I may be able to route these lines in here without pulling the flywheel off. It looks like this top piece with the handle and everything can come off, but in order to get to the screws that hold it on, I would have to pull the flywheel off and the clutch on the other side. So if I can get out of having to do that, I will. Alright, well, I've decided that it will make life a little bit easier if I pull the flywheel off of this thing. What I've done here is I've just wedged in some pieces of paper towel to hold these engagement pawls back out of the way of this nut. Now there's a couple ways you can get this off. Obviously if you turn it, the engine's going to turn. So how do you get around that? Well, one way is take the spark plug out and basically fill the cylinder full of rope. Obviously leave the rope sticking out of the spark plug hole so you can pull it back, and that rope will jam the piston in there so the motor can't rotate. But people have luck using impact drivers for this, so I'm going to use this and hope I don't have to block the cylinder. Okay, good, that came right off. Now I'm just going to set this nut back on here a little bit, because if I give this a whack with a hammer, I don't want to mess up the threads on the shaft here. Okay, there we go. Good stuff. Flywheel is removed. Don't lose that washer. And don't lose your flywheel key. looks like the fuel line goes up through a hole right next to the hole the oiler shaft goes through. And it goes through this hole here and kind of wraps around the corner and goes up. Okay, one thing that'll make your life easier when you're working with these fuel lines, take you a pair of side cutters and slice it off at an angle like that. It makes it a lot easier going through these small holes, and then you can get a pair of needle nose pliers, or I like to use hemostats sometimes because they lock and clamp onto whatever you're hooking to. Just try to feed that up through there enough to where I can grab onto it with my pliers. I can just barely see the line sticking down in there. I'll get my cheap hemostats and see if I can clamp onto it and pull it up. There we go. Alright, now we're cooking with butter. Alright, now once you've got your line through the hole, go ahead and clip it off straight. And this end just gets run around and hook onto the little nipple sticking out of carburetor. Make sure it's pushed on there good so the barbs on the connector will catch. Pull out some of your slack. Don't get it too tight, don't put a kink in the line, just pull it out. Now we're going to take the line and see. Okay, we're going to clip the other end off again. We're going to take the line and see if we can get it up through this little hole here. Easier said than done. I'm sticking it up through the hole with hemostats and holding it there so that I can grab onto it with these needle nose pliers. Okay. Pull it on through. Those of you that don't that work on small engines like this and you don't have a pair of hemostats, you need to get some, because sometimes needle nose pliers just aren't enough. It's nice to have something that will lock and clamp on to whatever you're doing, and sometimes you need to clamp off the fuel line for whatever reason, and these things are perfect. Yeah, I got these. This is a curved pair. They were only a few bucks at Harbor Freight. This pair I actually got in the fishing section at Walmart. You can go on eBay and buy these for like $5 a piece. I mean, they're not much, but they're a real lifesaver. Okay, now I'm going to run the line into the tank, and this line fits pretty good, pretty tight in these holes, so I don't think I'm going to go back and use these little splice connectors. I don't really know what the purpose of these is. I save them just in case I need one, but in this case I don't think I need it, because I think this line will fit just perfectly and seal in that hole. Now the question is, can I get in there in the tank and reach it to pull it through. Okay, that is a tight fit, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a longer taper on this so that I have more sticking out in the tank, and hopefully it'll stick out far enough so that I can get my hemostats down here in this hole and grab it and pull it through. So I'm just going to take my trusty razor knife here and just try to make a longer slice on this line. Okay. Now let's see if we're cooking with butter yet. If you can't see what I'm doing, you're not the only one. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, with some persuasion, a lot of cussing, and these life-saving hemostats, I was able to grab onto the line in the tank and pull it out. Now I've pulled the whole length of line through, and what I'm going to do right now is just guesstimate how long the line needs to be to stick down in the tank. But if you like these videos and you like what I'm doing and you'd like to see more videos like this, this is a good segue to let you know that I do have a Patreon account. Just look for Chris Hester on Patreon, and I gladly accept donations that will help me grow this channel. I really want to make videos that help people out with things like this, product reviews and things like that. So yeah, and you know, with your help I can do more and better quality videos. Now I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this and just see what it does. I'm going to put some gas in it, pull it over, see what it does. The carburetor may need rebuilding. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been sitting. It probably will need it, but I don't have a rebuild kit for it right now. So at this point, fuel line is all it's going to get. I'm going to see what that does. Really, the only thing I might need to show you about the reassembly is putting the flywheel back on. And when you put the flywheel back on, just make sure you don't lose your key and make sure it's locked in there pretty good like that. And put your washer back on, put your nut back on, and I'm going to give it a little hit with the nut smacker here. That should be as tight as you want it. Now we're just going to throw the starter cover back on here. Okay, you had 3 different size screws for this cover, 2 long ones and 1 short one. The short one goes in the front here. Remember, you are tightening these screws into aluminum, so don't crank down on them too hard. Your hand is your own torque wrench. Cover back on. I know it doesn't have an air filter. Pretty sure it's supposed to have one, but we're just going to see what it does. I'm not going to cut any wood yet with it. I'll come up with something to use as a filter before I crank it. Get in there. Just barely snug it up. And then your tension screw is on the other side of the bar here. Just tighten that up a little bit. Crank your bolt down. And I'm going to give it some gas and see if it starts.